Drywall, also called gypsum board, is a sheet that's composed of a paper wrap that contains molded particles of gypsum plaster. Drywall is placed over the inner wall studs and ceiling joists. Once drywall is installed, the wall can be painted, wallpapered, or whatever the plans and specifications call for. In most cases, drywall is sold in 4-foot wide sheets that are 8 to 12 feet in length. There are varying thicknesses of drywall. The most common thicknesses are 1/2 inch and 5/8. After all electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and insulation have been installed in the wall and ceiling frame, it's time to hang the drywall. Before drywall is installed, it must be laid out and cut. Drywall will cover a significant portion of a home, and because of this, is a large cost in home building. It's important that a construction craft laborer learns the correct procedures to lay out and install drywall. Lay out the drywall so that it is centered on studs or joists. During the layout process, you must consider what sections of the drywall are to be installed horizontally and what sections are to be installed vertically. First, measure the area to be covered. Determine the overall dimensions of the piece of drywall you need. Mark or scribe the cut line. Measure the locations and sizes of electrical boxes, HVAC outlets, and other architectural elements. Locate and mark the positions of these elements. Before you begin making your cuts, remember, outside cuts are for the ceiling and wall edges, while inside cuts are for the electrical, HVAC, and other openings on the inner portion of the drywall. There are several ways to cut drywall. Razor knives are recommended for outside cuts because of their accuracy on long, straight cuts. For inside cuts, however, drywall routers are commonly used. These types of saws are powerful and can cut inside openings in drywall quickly and accurately. Start your inside cut by marking the area to be cut with a carpenter's pencil and straight edge. Insert the router blade into the area to be cut. Cut along the marked edge and finish cutting all the way through the board. As you prepare to install the drywall, remember that the preferred installation process is to install the ceiling first, before installing the walls. Though the procedures for ceilings and walls are nearly identical, experienced construction craft laborers would tell you that installing ceilings is much more difficult. When installing ceiling drywall, the preferred method is to work with at least 2 laborers. When installing the drywall screws or other suitable fasteners are spaced 7 inches from each other on the ceiling and 8 inches on the walls. At the seams, the fasteners should be at least 3/8 of an inch from the edge. The fasteners will be secured to either studs or joists. Always install the drywall leaving the finished side exposed. Leave gaps between sheets centered on joists. There should be no gaps between sheets of drywall, electrical boxes, HVAC outlets, or other architectural elements greater than 1/8 of an inch. Where you have a series of joints that run perpendicular to the direction of the joists, these joints must be staggered. Fasten the drywall securely according to the building plans using nails, adhesive, or screws as specified. All fasteners must be below the level of the drywall. Make certain no screw or nail heads stick out above the sheet surface. Once the drywall is laid out and installed, it needs to be finished. Finishing drywall involves 4 main parts, including installing corner beads, applying joint compound to seams and nail or screw heads, taping seams and corners, and sanding the excess joint compound. Each of these 4 steps is critical to giving the drywall a finished, flush look so it can be painted, or the specified finish can be applied. At every exterior corner of drywall, there should be a corner bead. A corner bead is a piece of sheet metal, plastic, or metal mesh that helps protect the corner from damage. When you're ready to install the corner bead, it must follow the outside corner, be securely fastened according to specifications, and be free of dents. The corner bead must be installed according to plan and manufacturer's specifications and code requirements. Start by measuring the length of the corner bead. Cut the corner bead to the proper length. Place the corner bead over the outside corner of the drywall. Nail the top of the corner bead on both sides of the wall. Follow the same procedure to nail the bottom of the corner bead. Set nails every 12 inches, or use a bead clincher. Once the head beads are installed, the seams, corners, and screw or nail heads can be covered with joint compound, taped, and then sanded. This will give the joint compound its desired rough finish. Joint compound is available in two forms. The first is a powder that needs to be mixed with water. The second is a pre-mixed compound. They differ by finish and by drying time. Drying time for joint compound can vary from as little as 30 minutes to 24 hours. Allowing the proper amount of drying time will prevent the joint compound from cracking or flaking off during the sanding process. The first layer of joint compound is used to prepare the drywall for taping. To apply joint compound, a drywall knife or trowel is used. A drywall trowel has a handle on the top in the middle of the smoothing surface. Drywall trowels are good for wide areas of drywall that need large amounts of joint compound. A drywall knife has a handle parallel to the smoothing surface. Drywall knives, which are sold in a variety of widths, are good for spotting nail or screw heads, hard-to-reach areas, and corners. When it comes time to spread joint compound, stir or fold the compound until it is thoroughly mixed. Don't begin working with the compound until it has a smooth, consistent texture. Joint compound should be applied to seams and cracks before you do any taping. Once you've applied the joint compound, the tape can be securely fastened with no protruding fasteners or large depressions. Drywall joints greater than 1/4 inch and fractures must be filled with joint compound and troweled to a smooth finish. If fastened properly, drywall fasteners should be sunk into the drywall surface. Joint compound can be applied directly over the fastener. When applying joint compound to nail or screw heads, spot the heads so that the coats are smooth, free of lines, bubbles, marks, or protrusions. Apply the compound evenly. When the compound has dried, sand the area, leaving a smooth, flat surface prepped for painting or any other final finish work. Drywall tape is a thin mesh or solid layer that will sit on joint compound and add a layer of stability from cracking and flaking of sanded joint compound. Because the tape is porous, it will hold the joint compound in place and allow for a smooth sanded finish. The tape is then applied, centered over the seam. Once the tape is placed, it can be adjusted as needed. The tape must be thoroughly embedded, with no tears or air bubbles. Embed the tape by drawing the taping knife along the joint with enough pressure to adhere to the tape. Remove the excess compound above and below the tape edges. Cover the tape with a thin layer of joint compound and feather away from the center of the tape to a smooth finish. One of the most difficult tasks associated with the drywall process is taping and applying joint compound to corners. Attention to detail is critical. The most difficult of corners is the inside corner, due to the fact that there is precious little workspace. When finishing an inside corner, apply a thin layer of joint compound to the entire corner. Then add the tape. This will make it easier for the tape to stay in place and be adjusted as necessary. There should be equal amounts of tape on each side of the corner. Fold the tape along the entire crease. Lightly press the folded tape into the angle. Embed the tape by drawing your taping knife along one side of the tape with enough pressure for the tape to adhere. The tape on the inside corners must be thoroughly embedded, tight in the corner, and straight with no tears or air bubbles. A thin coat of joint compound should be evenly applied and feathered away from the center of the tape using your finishing or corner knife. Allow the joint compound to dry. Although probably not nearly as difficult to master as inside corners, outside corners can present a challenge. The finish of an outside corner will be much more noticeable than the finish on an inside corner. And because of their proximity to high traffic areas, such as entryways, they are easy to nick or to crack. One way to prevent damage is by using a corner bead. Another method to prevent damage and provide a clean, smooth look is proper application of joint compound and tape. When working with outside corners, apply enough compound to cover the tape, approximately 4 inches or so, and feather the joint compound to a smooth finish. Sand lightly as needed. Compound sanding should be done using sandpaper with a grit of 100 to 220. The higher the grit number, the smoother the finish will be. Understanding and practicing the processes of installing drywall joint compound makes a construction craft laborer an asset to any residential construction team.